All right. Greetings and welcome to the Zero Hour Squared Classics. Also for 94.5 KTBL The Pit, we are joined by a legendary individual from a legendary band from New Orleans, Exhorder, and they are getting ready to embark on a new tour starting out 2026 on a very good note. We're joined right now by Kyle Thomas. Thank you for joining us for sure. First and foremost, I want to get this out of the way because the last time I saw you come through Albuquerque, New Mexico, you guys were supporting Overkill, and that was
Okay, yeah, that might have been what 2020 probably.
yeah, it was
21.
2020, and that was the last show that I saw you guys play right before the pandemic. That was, I mean, literally the last show, and then that was it. Everything shut down. I had a little record store with a friend of mine, and we shut down. Everything just went crazy. So, what do you remember from all that? How did that affect your guys' tour, and what happened after that?
That was a very strange transitional time for this band. It was we were in survival mode. I think everybody was at that moment, and without even realizing it, to be honest with you, we jokingly call that the Super Spreaders tour because somebody in Overkill, I don't want to say whom, but somebody in Overkill was sick, and then the sickness passed on to our bandwagon, and then next thing you know, everybody, by the time we got to, Albuquerque, San Antonio, et cetera, everybody was sick, and nobody really knew what the hell it was. We always just called it tour SARS back in the day, but turns out, a week later or less, everything shut down with lockdown. So it turns out we were probably spreading the shit out of COVID all throughout the southern part of the U.S. But it was a great tour. We had just made a split with one of our members, and we decided we were going to continue with the tour as a four-piece. It was the first time we'd ever performed shows as a four-piece, so it was really a bit of a roll of the dice. But we had been a fully functioning machine for 2 or 3 years at that point, so it wasn't terribly difficult musically for us to do. We managed through it, and I think we did okay. We did well enough for Overkill to invite us out for 2 more tours, so we can look at it that way. But it was kind of the beginning of the transition into the version of the band that we are now, which is still a four-piece, but I've assumed guitar duties, and we've enlisted the help of one Patrick Quinn O'Brien on guitar as well. So we've been in this form for 2022 until 2026. We're almost 4 years into this lineup, so we finally settled into the lineup that we are happiest with. This is the longest the band's ever gone without breaking up or someone leaving, so that there's something to be said for that. But yeah, that tour was amazing. I remember, what is that, the Albuquerque? Is that what's the venue?
The Sunshine.
The Sunshine Theater. Yes, I was going to say Sun something Theater. Yes, okay. Yep. I remember that show well. That was a good one.
That was a fantastic show. I remember you guys ripping it up, and both you and Overkill, and I forget who else was playing with you guys that night. I know there was another 1 or 2 bands, may have been a local, but that set the stage for what happened afterwards with the lockdown and the subsequently bands having to just stop touring. Everything, I mean, just literally shut down. During that period of time, though, how did that help in your all's creativity? Did it lend into it a little bit more? Did you guys just see it as just taking a break? What happened for you guys then?
It was really, really a pretty stark situation for us, as well as the entire world. I mean, everything kind of it was like a Twilight Zone episode, really. It was kind of strange. So for us, we were just getting into our album, More in the Southern Skies, had only been out at that point for 5 months. So we were just starting to promote that album. We had a lot of plans to go to Europe, come back, do more US touring. And just like that, it went away. So instead of sitting there and going, bummer, what are we going to do? We said, let's get to work on the next one. So we started, all of us started putting our heads together, sorting out songs. There were a lot of songs put together that ended up on Defectum Omnium, which came out in 2024. And I'll get to that in a minute. That's kind of the tail end of this, but there were a lot of songs that didn't get used as well. So some that may never be used for Exhorder. We were just throwing everything and anything at the wall to see what sticks, which is the best way to do an album. The only way to find out if it's going to be right for the album is to actually manifest it into a song and or at least riffs and see what works. So we started trimming the fat, doing pre-production, recording. I was here in New Orleans. The dynamics of Exhorder is nobody lives in the same state. So Jason's up in Ohio, Sasha's there in Albuquerque where you live, and I'm here. So we just started kind of piecemealing things together on our own. Sasha and Jason eventually got together and jammed some stuff out. But I worked right here in this room, crafting my songs and using Easy Drummer 2 as my program for the drums. I've got a good enough recording setup here to do my demos. So I would send them over to Sasha. He would kind of do his thing to it on the drums. And when we get together at rehearsal in Jason's house in Ohio, everybody was pretty prepared to kind of start banging these songs out. And so we put 12 songs together that became Defectum Omnium. And the status of the world at the time was very bleak. With nobody knew what was going to happen, if things were ever going to open up again or even be the same. And I still think things maybe aren't the same as before, but that's okay. I think it's evolved into something that we all now know how to manage. But the song content, the lyrical content of the album was basically just looking at the world as a dumpster fire, and that we were all complicit. And basically, the fault of the status of the world lies with us. That the accountability belongs to us. We are what is ruining this world.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I really appreciate that, because that's funny. I was thinking about that the other day, that we are the stewards of the planet and we're really running it right into the ground.
It's true.
It's really too bad for the other species and the environment of the world. That's because we're the ones that think and take care of things. And man, it's hard to believe, and that's what I really appreciate about your songwriting. It's very honest. It's very insightful, and you've come up with some amazing albums ever since Slaughter in the Vatican.
Thank you.
And I want to talk about that a little bit later on. Not too much, because I know you're probably tired of the questions ad nauseum. Simply, hell, we'll talk about it right now since we're on the subject. It's one of the
sure.
It's one of the top 20 thrash metal albums of all time. And we're talking about bands, certainly the big four, and bands like Overkill, Testament, Whiplash, with Power and Pain and Artillery from Denmark and all these other bands. And you guys came out, and just took this haymaker with Slaughter in the Vatican. Still holds up very well. What do you hear about it from younger kids that maybe have just been turned on to it, say the past couple of years that you guys have been touring around?
It still carries, a similar impact, if not the exact same impact from back in the day. I'm still just amazed that so many young kids, not just young men, but young ladies, there's more female interaction in this genre than there ever was back in the day. We always used to joke that our shows were a sausage festival. It was just a bunch of guys, and if there was girls there, they were someone's girlfriend or they were working. So, but it's true, man. I run our socials, and I see it, and I look at our insights, and young females make up a significant portion of the audience that supports us. And that album in particular is an angry young person album. It is. I was raised in the Catholic environment. I was a practicing Catholic up until I was old enough to decide not to be. I went to Catholic schooling my entire childhood, and I just got to see it from a perspective that maybe not anybody that's not directly Catholic could quite understand. So I think there's a reason there. I mean, it's not. We weren't. I mean, obviously, we attacked, the Pope with our subject matter, but that was just kind of a metaphor for organized religion in general and the hypocrisies of man exploiting that for their personal gain, be it war, pillage and plunder, financial gain, and any of these things. So anybody on earth, 9 times out of 10 in a household, they're raised with some kind of religious belief, and that album represents everyone finally seeing hypocrisy and doing this. So that, I think that's a big reason why it resonates, but also the musical journey it takes you on. And I think one thing that separated us when we came out from the pack was that geographically where we were from, for starters, New Orleans, the traditional music from New Orleans is different from just about anywhere on earth. And that trickled into our music. But we also started on the punk scene. We tried to start this band on the metal scene, and the metal scene rejected us because at the time in New Orleans, the metal scene was pretty much about hair metal, and we were far too ugly for that. So, and in addition, we were playing our own songs, and the promoters were like, "No, y'all need to do, heavy metal covers and maybe 1 or 2 originals per set, but no more." So we were like, "No way, like, what are we doing this for? We're not doing this to impress a promoter or girls or anything. We're doing this to play the songs that we want to hear." At the time, some of us were punk, some of us were metal, some of us were both, and we just wanted to play the songs that we were listening to, which was, Metallica, Slayer, Venom, Corrosion of Conformity, DRI, GBH, Dead Kennedys, Fear. This is what we listened to, so we wanted to play stuff like this. And that was fortunate for us that the punk rock community welcomed us as different as we were from traditional punk and then what now more is known as hardcore. But they said, "No, we don't care how different y'all are. Y'all come play. Y'all are intense," and that's how it started for us. So I find today that crossover between genres and stylistic differences is a lot easier for the younger generations, whereas before it usually ended up in brawls and wars and just a lot of bickering. And I prefer the scene unity over the divisiveness.
Right. I think that album resonates really well. I too come from a Catholic background. Same thing. Went to the private Catholic school, all of that stuff, and the indictment on religion and the establishment was really well done. The formula you guys use: hard power punching, beautiful riffs, great shearing guitar, flashy solos, great stuff like that. But then the lyrics, I think, really. Again, it resonated with so many of us, and then you all coming from, like you said, from the southern part of the states, where everything else was coming from either the West Coast or the East Coast. Definitely, I think made you kind of stand out in that. I want to talk quickly about the Catholicism aspect. Do you ever sense that you might be the only that us former Catholics might be the only ones that get the Exorcist and are actually scared of it? Because I'll talk to other people from other denominations, and they're like, "Man, that movie's stupid, man. It doesn't scare me." It scares
It's funny that you say that, because for me, when I rank the scariest movies of all time, The Exorcist is always at the very top. It's number one. The only one that scared me quite as much was John Carpenter's Halloween, and it was for a lot of different reasons, but it affected me as and maybe even more. I was so scared of Michael Myers as a kid. I was, uh, and the reality of it, a person killing people. That's something more real than possibly human possession by an entity. That's probably less realistic. But as a Catholic kid growing up, that was very real. So that was what we were taught could really happen. My children, we showed them that movie when we felt they were old enough, and they kind of laughed at it. They were like, "Yeah, it wasn't that scary. It was cool, but it just wasn't that scary." And I think it's because they grew up in the CGI era, whereas we grew up in an era where prosthetics and animatronics, or you had to rely on a lot of different things, like a team, to make special effects happen. So I think it leaned more on our imagination than having special effects take that burden. I don't know. I just find it to be, it's almost shot like a documentary, and I think that's what makes it really scary, is that it's so believable that you can believe that these conversations are happening, whereas most movies, it's so obviously scripted. So but yeah, the effect, that the impact that movie had on audiences in 1973 when it came out, I think, was tremendous. People fainting, people vomiting in the theaters, leaving and then coming back because they have to see the train wreck. I didn't see the movie until I was maybe a tweener. I might have been 11 or 12, because there was no way my parents were letting me see it. But a kid from school, my Catholic high school, loaned me a copy on VHS, and I took it home, and I watched it when my parents weren't home, by myself. Ooh. In the daytime, and I was still, I had to turn it off at times and like turn it back on, and like, I'm tough enough to watch this, yes, and I kind of wasn't. So that was a tough one, man, for sure. But yeah, I think the younger generations, and maybe, as you're suggesting, generations that didn't have the fear of the devil put into them quite as much as we did, it's just a little more like a fairy tale to them, I guess.
Right. Sorry, I didn't mean to go off on that tangent, but I mean, I think it's always interesting. I don't get often a chance to talk to people about that, because, like I said, I'll talk to people from other denominations, and they're like, "That movie is just kind of dumb," you know what I mean? But to me, even the music, it took me about, I was about 11, just hearing the music, I had to plug my ears. It frightened me that much. Pretty much. It was what it was. I want to talk to you about your upcoming tour, man. You guys are getting ready to embark on this tour, the Unforeseen Circumstances tour, around late January. You're going up on the road with, who is it? Ringworm, Phobia, Lewicidal on some of the dates, but talk to us about the tour.
Yeah, so we kick off in Lafayette, Louisiana, which is about 100 miles west of where I live here in New Orleans. Slow Hole will be on that bill. Slow Hole will be the only band on every show. They're a young band from here that's really kicking ass. We took an interest in them after we played a show with them last year in Shreveport, Louisiana. They've been out with some other bands like I Hate God and such. Really, really good band. Show up early. Make sure you see Slow Hole. It's great. But Lewis, I think Phobia is jumping on in the Texas states. And then as we get a little further west, maybe to El Paso-ish, Lewicidal will join us. Phobia is a grindcore legend from the early 90s, I want to say. And Lewicidal features OG members of Suicidal Tendencies. I'm really looking forward to that. That's an honor beyond an honor. Before Exhorder was even put together, Suicidal Tendencies was something that I was enjoying in my punk discovery, as we say. So we're very pleased that they agreed to do this tour with us. And I want to say, when we get probably out to the Denver area towards the end of the tour, they're peeling off, and then Ringworm's going to jump on for like the last 5 shows, I think. Another legendary band. I first started hearing about them in the early 2000s when I was in Alabama Thunder Pussy. And I just remember a lot of people up in the Midwest they couldn't stop talking about Ringworm, and I never got to see them. So I'm excited to finally get a chance to do some shows with them as well. But yeah, I think we've got a banging lineup for this tour, and it's diverse, which is what I like. I'm a huge fan of not going to a show where all the bands sound the same. I don't understand that concept. Even back in the very beginning, when Exhorder would do shows just in the New Orleans area when we were kids, we always put together a bill that was very different and, inclusive of different genres. I think it's a better recipe for a good show.
Very cool. Couple more quick questions. I do want to circle to your duties going from vocalist to vocals guitar, and that was in 2022. Pretty much when we were talking after the pandemic, and you guys started opening up. How has that adjustment been for you? Are you used to it, or is it a pain in the ass, or it doesn't even bother you?
So I'm a musician by nature. I started playing trumpet when I was in third grade. Took private lessons for 5 years. That gave me an incredible foundation for learning new instruments. I became a bass player in my early teens, and that was my goal. I never wanted to be a singer. It found me by accident. So the abridged version of that is that I guess I was good enough for people to want me to sing more than play bass, because singers are probably a little harder to find, especially like singers that have a wider range and more dynamic skill set. So I didn't ask for it. It found me. I'm blessed to have it. It's a curse as much of it's a blessing at times, but I've been in a handful of bands over the years where I was playing guitar as well as singing. It never leaves me permanently. I'm always musician first, like I said. So this time around, I think we had such a carousel of people in and out of the band on the string instruments that we just looked at it like, let's simplify things. Let's take it from 5-piece to 4. It's going to be less expensive to operate this band. Fewer flights, fewer meals, fewer hotel accommodations, that sort of thing. Less, one less person to have to put, money in their pocket. And I'm getting older. The obnoxious, loose spring, wild frontman show that I've put on my entire life at 50-something years old is a lot harder to do. So I felt like, if the guitar is going back into the hands of anyone, it should go back into the hands of an original member, whether or not he played guitar in this band or not. Who else is going to feel this band the way that I do? So getting Pat to join shortly after we committed to doing that was paramount to my development as a guitar player. He's a very humble man. He's more famous than this band. So like for us, it's just, great to have him on board for a lot of reasons. He's not a diva. He's easy to work with, doesn't need much, but he's also been very good at building me up. I have to give Pat lessons. I have to teach Pat how to play the songs. And to me, that's strange because he's light years better than I am. And I'm sitting here giving him a guitar lesson. It just doesn't make sense. But at the same time, he shares a lot of his knowledge with me, gives me a lot of exercises to work on, to help me develop my skill set. And I am a better guitar player now than I've ever been in my life, than I ever would have been had I not committed to doing this, much less having him help mentor me into the best guitarist I can be. So I always joke, I always say Pat's the best extreme guitarist out there, and I'm the world's okayest extreme guitarist out there. But I have to do a little bit of this, right, with the singing and playing, and it's not easy. The songs are very complex. The riffing is hard. It's counter rhythm 9 times out of 10 to what I'm doing vocally. So it's a lot of work. It really is, but I'm doing it, and we're all happy with it. So.
Awesome. Kyle, we're out of time. I want to thank you very much. Once again, we've been joined by Kyle Thomas, vocalist and guitar player for New Orleans band Exhorder. I hope to see you come through on the tour in Albuquerque. I didn't see that as one of the dates, but I'm sure maybe later you'll have another leg or so that you might come through. Is there anything I didn't ask you that you'd like to say on behalf of Exhorder to our listeners and viewers?
Just that we're still stoked that that people are very supportive of this band. It's crazy because this band, even when we're not together, the band always grows. It's a legendary band for whatever reason it is. And when we're actually out here working it grows even more, and the demand just keeps on coming. So we're grateful for that. We thank everybody for the undying support that we've gotten. And we're giving you guys some more. We're working on new stuff now. So perhaps next year we have another album, a fifth one.
All right. Sounds good. Well, thanks again, Kyle. Appreciate it very much. Much continued success, and hopefully we'll see you back here in Albuquerque.
Thanks, Mike. Hope to be back there soon.